This podcast is sponsored by CDO Group, the industry leader providing a full range of construction and project management services. CDO Group has managed thousands of projects in all 50 states. Their group of experts provides systems, processes, and procedures to make sure that your projects turn over on time and on budget every single time. With over 24 years of experience, CDO Group is the industry's leader in construction management and general contracting services. To find them, go to cdogroup.com. Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Hi, and welcome to the Future Development Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Montegui, and today I am joined by the one and only, my friend, Scott Edwards. Scott is a serial entrepreneur. His background in creating multiple companies. He has got comedy stores, painting companies. He's got an underwater submarine. I'm excited about having him on the show. Let's give him a big warm welcome to Scott Edwards. Welcome to the show. Scott, welcome to the show. You know, I love having you on the show. It's always interesting to have a comedian, on the show and talk about some of your background. You know, you've got a really neat background in not just comedy, but in the development world where the comedy clubs you developed. Why don't we take a minute and go backwards a little bit and talk about your history and get to know you just a little bit better for the audience.
Well, thanks so much, Anthony, and I'm happy to do that. First and foremost, I'm not a comic. I'm a producer. I worked with Jay Leno, Ray Romano, Dana Carvey, Bob Saget. They all worked for me. I was the money guy that paid them. But, and other than being a professional MC, I just always like to make it clear that I'm not a stand-up comic. I just happen to like those guys. But yeah, it was an interesting start. When I was 17, I was working as a night janitor at a motel, not a nice one, and, mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms. And at 17, like any other 17-year-old, when I could, I'd hide from the boss in the bar area. And I was in the bar, and I overheard these two guys talking about, one was telling the other, man, I'm making some good money on the weekends painting lines in parking lots. And I'm like, taking mental notes. And when I left the next day, I started doing my research. And this is the important thing for anybody that wants to start a business. You got to really plan out what you're going to do. And I always think the best thing is to talk to the people doing it. So I went out to a couple asphalt/striping companies, introduced myself, met the owners and said, hey, how did you get into business and what do you charge? And people love talking about themselves and talking about their business. And I was able to get a copious amount of information. And so I had this great idea for a company. I had collected and done my research, had some information, and I had no money. I was 17, right? Working as a janitor.
Right. That's right.
So I got a buddy of mine who just came into a huge inheritance of $500 and convinced him to buy a painting machine, a striping machine. And then we go, well, how are we going to get around to the jobs? Hey, I got this other high school buddy that happens to own a van. And we said, okay, you want to come work for us. And I started the company A&A Restripe. And this is in about 1974. And sorry to date myself. And we started working, and it turned into a pretty good sized company. And here's the interesting part, Anthony, that company is still operating today. One of the guys that I brought into the company kept it going all those years and then brought his children into it, and they're still operating it today. I did sell out after a couple of years, but we had a lot of success. I did all the McDonald's in Northern California, all the Safeway stores. We did an airport, a couple large furniture chains named Bruner's. And we took it beyond striping, where we were doing asphalt repair and light construction. And it was an exciting 2.5 years.
Scott,
that's my claim to fame in construction. Woohoo!
Well, yeah, Scott, when you go back, though, when you think about that business, right, you're starting it with nothing. And, this is what I want the audience to get. There are plenty of guys out there that are like, hey, I'm ready to do something. The number one battle I had in starting anything I ever did was the idea went from here to my first day. right? Once that first day happened, right, when I grabbed my junk and said, I'm going to go do this now. And that first door you knock on, that first building you go to, that first, I remember the first time I started painting, my painting company was my first company, knocking on that first door. And saying, hey, my name's Anthony. I want to pressure clean your roof. I remember that first. I thought that they were going to look at me like they're going to see through me and every sin I had ever done. That just the fear you have. But then I did it again and again and again. And, like you said, you figured stuff out. Now you have a machine, or you take $500, the life savings that you have, you buy a machine, then you talk a friend into letting you're using your van, and all of a sudden, one thing leads to another. If you remember back, what do you think the most impactful part of that was?
Well, I think for me, and I was kind of the, I started the company, I was the sales guy, and I brought in the other two is the labor. They ended up, running it. But I think that what was the most impactful to me, Anthony, was that I realized my potential in sales. My personality fit perfectly with the sales ideal, and I was able to, walk into the McDonald's regional headquarters and convince them that, hey, these group of 17-year-olds were going to paint the parking lots all over Northern California, and all we wanted was $1 per line and free food at every McDonald's. Because, as a teenager, free food is more important than money.
You're right. I mean, $1 per line. I mean, think back about how simple that was. It wasn't linear feet. It wasn't, I would same thing for me when I started the painting company. I would literally walk in and go, well, that's about a gallon. That's about a gallon. That's about a gallon. I better double my number. I'll make it 6 gallons. Figure I couldn't go wrong if I doubled the number. And then, so many things I didn't think about, or so many things that weren't there when you started, but then you started to learn, all right, I missed a few things. Maybe the next one I get a little bit better.
As you go. Yeah. No, that is the most important thing for any entrepreneur, is that failures are the stepping stones to success. You have to fail to learn. I think one of the funniest things that we weren't really proud of became kind of our tradition, is at every place that we did some construction work, we spilled some paint, and we ended up, calling that our signature. So every parking lot had some paint spill, big or small or something, and we go, well, we signed our lot. We're off to the next one.
I had a funny one that was similar to that. I was painting in Boca, right? In Boca, these houses are pink. They love this Boca pink. Well, Pepto-Bismol pink and Boca pink are like one shade apart, right? And we started this lady, and I always let the customer pick their color. They pick their color, and we're about halfway through this house, and the lady comes in, she goes, yeah, I hate this color. I need you to, and I'm like, all right. For us, it was fine because, we got paid extra to go back and change the first half of the paint we did. But I had all this pink paint in my truck, and somewhere I was driving, and one of the buckets fell over. And from where it fell over, bright pink paint, from where it fell over till it got to my house, there was a bright pink line, and you could see every time I stopped at a light, there would be a puddle. Like, you could tell I got the light there. And you're like, all right, that was, but it was, those were magic. I think back then, at the time, it was so frustrating because I had to clean out a van and I had to go through all of this stuff, and she's making us start over again, and at the time, it was hard to see the dots looking forward. I just couldn't see that business or the business before that taught me, I went to work for a brokerage house. They taught me how to do sales, right? I couldn't see that job that, today the movie Boiler Room looks exactly like that job I had there. That job got me to do that job, the next one. And then that job got me into commercial construction. And looking backwards, they all make sense, right? It all makes sense. You could see the dots and where I am as a career and the businesses that we've run for years. It all makes sense, but yeah,
it's all markers in your life as you've gone through, good and bad. A lot of people think that they want to. We're both podcasters, and a lot of people talk about doing podcasting, but they want to get it perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Just do it. Great quick story, Anthony, about the construction business. So we were a trio of 17-year-olds. We had no idea what we were doing. And we were just trying to get enough money and food to get by. And I landed a job with a rather large furniture chain in Northern California called Bruner's. And it was owned by the Bruner's family. And I went in and introduced myself to Mr. Bruner. And I said, I want to paint your parking lots, and it's $1 a line, and we'll do a great job. And he said, sure. He goes, but this back employee access road needs a double line. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal. And for a big company, it isn't, because you get a paint sprayer with 2 heads and it's perfect, right? And I'm like, oh, no problem. We could do a double line. Well, what we did was we did a single line, and then we went back and eyed it and tried to make sure that there was the same distance between each line the whole way. And we're talking about a 1/4 mile long road, right? When we were done, we drove that line, and it's like, woo, woo, woo. It was horrible. You could not eye perfection. You needed a 2-hose paint machine. So we were just petrified and thought, these guys are going to throw us in jail for being frauds. And this was permanent paint. We had ruined their road forever. And so I kind of went in, my head hung low to Mr. Bruner. And I said, well, we finished the work, but we had a bit of a challenge on your employee access road. And he just starts laughing. He just goes, oh, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. It wakes up my employees every day when they come in. They laugh their butts off as they're driving down this road with the lines going all over the place. He goes, no problem. Here's your check. Thanks for doing the work. And we're like, woo!
Yeah, right.
and it was a perfect example of even when you think you've created this huge negative drama, that the reality of life, it was fine. It wasn't that big a deal. And even the owner of this big chain of stores found the humor in it. And there was a great life lesson there.
I say it all the time around here. In construction, we mess something up all the time. And people, young project managers will come in, and oftentimes they're not wanting to do it or even tell anybody about it, or trying to cover it up. And and I speak to it all the time when I'm with groups. I'm like, look, the whole goal here as a group is to trust that the good, the bad, the ugly, we need to know about it, right? No matter what it is, no matter what's happened, and we're not going to kill you. And by the way, just about every time I've had the worst things happen. I mean, worst. We've missed something. We've cut something. We broke something. And I go sit down with the customer, and I'm clear. I'm straightforward with them. And here's what's happened. And it always builds a better relationship when we're honest, right? When we build that open, honest communication with the customer, it talks about exactly what happened. All of a sudden, I've got this great, it's in that problem, I build a better relationship with the client. And I think oftentimes
it's a great life lesson,
that.
Anthony, that so many young people don't understand, that you have to be honest, I've been in customer service for 50 years, and it's all about being honest, being upfront. And if you give as much as you can, good or bad, people will respect that, relate to it. And, you always have somebody that won't. But
right.
Generally speaking, we're all human beings sharing the planet, and we all, find a way to get along. And in business, it's so important to understand that fine line between customer service and, not being upfront, honest. And like you said, some people want to try to hide it. That never works. You're always going to get found out.
That's right. I agree. And, in that, that's one of those spots where you don't know that, so you've done it a few times, and then all of a sudden you trust it. Like, hey, open, honest relationships are the key to growing, and they open up opportunity. And by the way, I think that's the part about us as men, right? As human beings, as we look at each other, and I can speak to you about what's really going on with me. When I can say, hey, Scott, I'm having a good day, I'm having a bad day. When I show up as my Facebook self, people get tired of that. It's annoying, right? If I can show up as, all the good stuff, here's all the good stuff, all the stuff I pretend to be. Here, when I'm truthful, this is the man that I actually am. The relationships become so much more intimate and so much more connected. It's an awesome way to live life and then also do business the same way,
Well, one of my greatest joys is all my dumb Scott stories. I mean, you got to kind of wear your mistakes as badges of honor because you got through it, right? I'll tell you, let's transition a little bit because we're talking to maybe entrepreneurs and people that want to start a business. And I've already explained how I found my way around opening the construction business without any money. I wanted to move on to my next, it was really my third adventure. But I opened up a chain of comedy clubs. I ended up with 3 clubs, 125 employees, worked with, I name dropped Robin Williams, Bob Saget, Dave Coulier, Yakov Smirnoff, you name it, they've all worked for me. And the great story there, Anthony, is that I had visited the annex store of the college location of the Comedy Store in LA on vacation. And I go, man, this would rock in Sacramento. I was selling life insurance at the time and hated it. And I came up and I quit my job and I went bankrupt, which was really stupid. I think I owed $2,800. I had no clue what I was doing, but I had no money. And I wanted to open this club. And what I did was I went to a local restaurant, met with the owner, and I said, look, you got this banquet room that's not doing anything at night. How about you take the food and drink sales? I'll do my little comedy show. I'll take the door. You get the food and drink, and let me get into business. And he goes, well, we're doing banquets during the day. I go, look, I'll do all the labor. You don't have anything to worry about. So he let me use his banquet room for free, and I opened up my comedy club. Now, I did have to tear down the banquet every day, set up my comedy club every night. At the end of my show, I had to tear down my comedy club so they could do a banquet the next day. I lost my butt for about 6 months, but I got my club started. And it was so interesting, Anthony, because he saw this gold mine, just like I did in stand-up comedy, that secretly he had planned to force me out and take over my club. Well, the waitresses who really like me kind of give me a heads up that he was going to do this. And by that point, I was making a little money, negotiated an affordable lease right across the street. And I shut down on a Sunday in his room and reopened my own room on Tuesday, 2 days later. And it was so funny because he sat me down and he goes, well, we've decided we don't really need you to do this. We're going to do it ourselves. And I said, great, I'm out of here on Sunday. And he was like shocked. And then I did my move, reopened 2 days after I shut down that room. And he tried to keep my club, my original location, going and failed miserably within 3 months. And my club went on to fame and fortune as one of the longest running comedy clubs. Is still operating today in the United States. And I wanted to share that story because it's another example of, as you have the drive and the interest in doing something, there's always a way.
It's always about that, creativity, keeping your head on a swivel, not panicking. But the problem is at the time, I know that feeling. You're in the middle of this. Someone just walked in and told you, you're about to lose everything you've worked your butt off, right? These 2 sticks, you ram them together. You just got the fire started. You're just starting to see some heat off of it, and then all of a sudden, someone wants to take that fire from you and keep it for their own. And there's plenty of times when it happened. My first business, I had a guy who stole my trailer. Right, I got asked to come up to Chicago to go to a cost cutting seminar with a group and meet Discovery Zone. And I come up here to meet them, and while I was gone, they stole my trailer. And I thought,
wow,
for sure, had I gone back, but while I was up here in Chicago, the guy offered me a job. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know about going to work here. I was going to be an accountant. I was working my way through school to be an accountant. And I'm like, I'm not sure about this. Let me think about it for a little bit. And I go back down there and they stole my trailer. And the guys, it was one of the guys that worked for me. And they steal the trailer. And in that moment, I just knew I could sit and panic. And I just looked up to the air and I said, well, I guess, dude, hey, higher power, I guess you've got some purpose for me. I guess I'm moving to Chicago. And a month later, I was living in Chicago, and I've never looked back. Those are the places where you could sit on the ground in the fetal position and just cry, or take advantage of the opportunity and go, all right, how is this my next step to grow? Where's my next step into it? And sometimes I think the world does that to you to kind of keep you from being, because had you stayed at that club, you would have never had the clubs you had. You would have always been at his beck and call. Right, you get complacent about it, and the universe has a way of kicking you in the ass. And you're right, a little bit of the get you up, and move up to Chicago. I traveled, I learned, I worked with some amazing human beings, and my knowledge of construction grew so quickly. It was like having a PhD. In the next 4 years, I had a PhD in construction. It was just
awesome. Great story.
Awesome, right. And we never get those things unless we go through, the guy taking your, sitting you down, taking your space, or taking that risk, and taking those steps that really light your fire. Maybe even fear, right? The fear of losing it makes you get pretty damn creative pretty quickly.
Exactly. And I know it's an old, simple, simplistic adage, but, turning lemons into lemonade, you just have to, if you have the drive. I mean, I want to encourage your listeners that you have to be focused, persistent, consistent, and have the drive to succeed at whatever you're doing. And when those things happen, which they will, because that's what life is all about. Sure. It's going to be tossing barriers at you. And I think the difference between people like us, Anthony, and some others, don't want to point fingers, is that you can't give up. You can't just succumb to the consequences of negative things. You have to overcome and keep going. And those that do, I think, find a way to succeed. And it's such an important lesson, and things that you can't learn in school, sadly. I think I'm, by the way, I don't know about you. It sounds like you're very well educated, Anthony, and my hat's off to you. I'm the successful guy in the corner with the dunce cap. I never went to college. I barely got through high school because I was working to help support my family. And I feel like my path of education was life's road. My point of bringing that up is that whether you're college educated or you've learned through the trials and errors of life, there's a way to succeed.
Scott, I never graduated college. I went to college. I was just like you. I was always working, and it always seemed like just as a semester would start, I'd finally get that big contract, right? I would just get into a new year, and and all of a sudden, boom, I got this apartment complex, or boom, I got this other deal. Something had just made it happen, and today I look back and go, I wish I could have graduated college. There's part of me that always said that, but I feel like today, I'm not sad about it at all. In fact, I've got a son who just came back from college. And he's like, he was in COVID and he was down in college and he was having a heck of a time. And he's like, I hated it. It was miserable. He goes, I really want to go work on cars. And he goes, I love cars. He literally watches cars 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. His passion. And he was going to go to construction school because Dad did, right? Dad has a construction company. And he spent the last 5 summers of his life working at our company and doing all the construction stuff. And it's great. He's been great at it. But he goes, my real passion, Dad, is, you told me, follow my passion. I love cars. I want to go work on cars. And today he works on cars at a dealership. And he comes home every night and he's got grease up to his elbow. But there's a look in his eye every day. He stands a little taller. He's gotten a little thicker as a man. And he's now in a spot where that tired look in his eye is one of real appreciation for the work and the effort that he's putting into it. And it's his. It's not me, right? He's living under the shadow of a guy.
He found his passion, right?
His, right? You can imagine what it's like to be the son of guy. We've done well over here. And he didn't have to live in my shoes, my shadows. He gets to go do his own shadows. And, today it's hard work, but it's your hard work. And there's something to be said about eating what you kill, and getting that as a man, that makes it feel a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because the kids are going to find their own path. Both my children grew up I had mentioned the chain of comedy clubs. I also owned a couple restaurants and a couple art galleries, and both my kids had to work their way from an early age. They would empty garbage or sweep floors or clean bathrooms, and I gave them the education of work ethic. And the tag to the story was, after 21 years of owning the clubs, I decided I got an offer to be bought out. And so I contacted both my children and I said, hey, someone wants to buy the business, but I built this for you. If you want to take it over, if you want to run it, I'll keep it for another 10 years, but you could take it over, right? This is our family legacy, this chain of comedy clubs. And they were like, we grew up in that. We're done with it. Yeah, we hung out with famous people, and la-di-da. They could care less. And so I sold the club. And as I mentioned, it's still operating. But when I sold it, so I called them up and I said, well, I sold the club. And they were like, what? wait a minute. We didn't know you were serious.
No, that's right.
I said, well, it's too late now.
Well, there's a ton of those, right?
Yeah, I mean, they went off and found their own passions. Both of them are teachers. My daughter teaches in elementary school, and my son's a professor at the University of San Diego. And so then they found their own passions and went on and succeeded in their own way. But it's interesting, you talked about your son having, he was raised in the construction business. He had this great opportunity to move into your shoes and follow your path. And just like my kids, I kind of like cars.
Yeah, right. And it's in that I feel like the best education you can get, where you actually find your passion, not your dad's, not your family's, not, in finding that. And now he can go do his thing. And hey, by the way, if he ever wants to come backwards, hey, we're back here. You can always come back here and check it out. And, but I said to him, the whole time, I'm like, look, go hunt that down. The number one thing that I believe that when I look backwards are the things I didn't do, right? The spots in life, the things I did. It's never the stuff I did and didn't do well at or failed at or even had a problem. Rarely did I really fail. Maybe I had some stumbles along the way, but great persistence always got me through got us through the tough times. It's in the spots where I didn't go do it, right? I should have gone to do that. I wanted to do that. Those spots are the ones I think I regret the most. And I think there's where I've tried to inspire them to go, don't, if you want to go do it, go for it. I really do believe that on this planet, we can do anything we want. There's nothing that holds us back from living our biggest dreams, going for as much stuff as we want, just looking for the way that, how can I serve other people, right? And somehow here at CDO Group, I've been able to find a way to do construction in a way that supports the customers we work for and the people that work for us. And, people say customers are first. I got to say, hey, look, it's our employees that come first, right? Without any of this, I can't serve a customer to begin with.
They're your family, right?
Right. If we take care of this family, right, and I look at that, and our family is the people that work in these buildings and the people that work for us. The mailman that walks in our door, I hope he has a better, or she has a better life when they walk in the door because of who we are in the community, who we are as a people. And then not only that, then that goes off to our customers, right? And the people that we work for and the behavior that we have is in service of them. And we're grateful for the customers that we get to have. And I think that spells itself out in long-term behaviors and long-term relationships. And I hope that they, my family, my kids, see that part of the man that I am. It's not always about the dollar sign that makes us successful. I think it's in the way that we are. And I hope for that, for them, they find, ways that they can be, they'll their behaviors will help them be successful.
Oh, definitely. And I think you help teach them the lessons so that they can succeed at what they want to do. But succeeding in money is not always the thing. Quick side story, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like doing different things. I actually helped design and build a submarine and then launched it in Monterey, California as a tourist business. And I was so excited because I always wanted to be an oceanographer. I love the ocean, even though I'm totally landlocked in Sacramento, California. And I had the submarine for about a year and a half in Monterey. And it turned out the water there was too cold. We had a problem with algae bloom. We had to pay divers to always clean the glass. It was a huge financial failure. We ended up selling that submarine to the Wrigley Gum family. It still operates out of Catalina Island. But as much money as I lost, and as I would never say that was a mistake that I regret. It was so much fun being involved with the public, with the ocean, with this amazing, it was the Nautilus 4, and it was an exciting opportunity in my life that was a total financial failure, and I love that I did it.
You learn from them, right? They're not mistakes as much as they are, it's like paying to go to college. Right? I mean, you learn from that experience, from the failure or the business where you had a tough time. You learned as much from that as the successes that we have. And I think that's the joys of taking the step and going, all right. I mean, think about how bold that is to go and build a submarine and a submarine business and all the stuff to go around that. And then, realize, all right, maybe it's not a perfect business to be in. I can think back. I started a patio company, and the idea was great. In Chicago, they have these downtown restaurants, and we realized that our construction company was getting permits for people, and we could get permits. We had an expediter's license in the city of Chicago, and we could do outdoor patio permits for a brand that sells donuts. And we used to get their patio permits for them every year because it was kind of a pain in the neck, but they were a big customer and said, hey, would you get us our patio permit? And when 08 and 09 came by and it was, the economy was crashing, there was no construction. And so we said, well, we could go get these permits for people. And we made up this little flyer and we went around door to door and we sold patio permits. And, think about that. You'll fill out the application, take it down to the alderman's office, get a sign, take it through zoning and all this stuff. And then we thought, I'll sell furniture. We'll sell patio furniture. Well, one of the things we found out was every single thing that's in the patio furniture, every single chair that is available in the patio world is being knocked off somewhere in China. That it is the most incestuous business. There's not very good margins. People in Chicago have a 5-month patio maybe, and the amount of money they can spend on it was difficult. But I learned, we learned how to do permits. We learned the process, just like the submarine business. I learned as much from that business as anything else I've ever done, right? The process of growing a team and growing salespeople and door-to-door stuff that I would never have learned had I not taken this shot. And I look back today and think to myself, that was one of the, now maybe one day when I'm an old man, I could just do it one man at a time. I could wear a straw hat and some big old glasses, and I could just do one patio at a time. It'd be a perfect business, right? It'd be a perfect, Anthony the patio guy, maybe in Chicago, I could get, wear a Hawaiian shirt to work every day. Right? And in the wintertime, I could go down to Florida and be a snowbird. It might be perfect, right? It might be that perfect business, but it was a tough one to roll out.
The reason I brought it up, and it sounds like you've had many of the similar experiences, is that you have to have fun with your life. We're only on this planet a short time, and if you just spend your whole time in a cubicle, you're missing out on so much. You have to get out, try things, have fun. The submarine was a ridiculous idea, but it was fun, and I did it. Patio furniture from China. I mean, you're the patio furniture guy of Chicago. I mean, it had to be fun, learning something different, doing something different, interacting with those business owners. If you got to go where life's path takes you, and have fun along the way. That's what I'm trying to say. And of course, you're talking to a guy that had a comedy club for over 2 decades, so I had a lot of fun.
Well, there was a Will Smith statement. He once said, everything amazing, everything great in life is right on the other side of scaring the crap out of yourself. Right? I mean, just when we started that, I remember we started that patio business. We had this 8.5 by 11 flyer that we made up. It was called CDO Group Patio Permits, and it wasn't even its own company. We still were operating under the CDO company, and we made it just a flyer. We just went door to door. I remember walking down the stairs and walking across the street to the first restaurant. Those steps might have been the scariest steps that I ever took. You just remember how scared you were. And then that first conversation. And then we walked all the way down Michigan Avenue, right? Our offices were on Michigan Avenue. We walked all the way down Michigan Avenue till we got to the other end of Michigan Avenue from where we are. And we got to this restaurant called The Gauge. And they were our first customer. I remember the guy said, yes. And yeah. I was like, yeah. You want to get our permit for us? It's a pain in the ass. No one here knows how to do it.
First yes.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, whoa, okay. Now what? Really? And then he said to me, he goes, I have the hardest time every winter. Can you store this stuff for me? He goes, every winter I got to get my crew. I got to go rent a storage thing. Can you guys come by and pick this up and store it for me and bring it back to me next year? I'm like, oh yeah. Then we invented patio storage, right? We'd go out and pick it up and get the permit. Now we do the patio, selling the furniture. Now we'd store in the wintertime. The stuff that we could do was phenomenal. So, Scott, I love that, as we take these adventures as men and as humans, and we go down this path to try some new stuff on, it gets a little scary, but on the other side of it, it's thrilling, right? That invigoration. Do you remember how invigorated you were the first customers or the first time you saw that submarine? Oh, it's the excitement, the adrenaline. What's interesting about, my experience with it is, and I've started over 12 companies, is that I will literally have trouble sleeping at night because I'm working through what I think every contingency will be. And of course, I always miss something and you learn something new. But, starting with that very first construction company, one of the things you learn is how to plan and think of the contingencies that are going to confront you as you move forward. And I've taken that experience from when I was 17 and carried it through now and with all my businesses. And it's that night before you open, or that the night when you're creating the business in your mind and you're going, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And let's just say I've had a few sleepless nights.
Well, I think that's the adrenaline coming through you, right?
It's exciting.
That excitement that comes through there. And a lot of people are afraid of that. They're afraid to take that step through that fear. And, like Will Smith said, go for it. Because, like skydiving, you fly up in this plane. I remember the first time I the only time I ever walked out of a door of a perfectly good airplane with a parachute on, I was scared to death. Now, I never had the good feeling on the backside. I realized when my feet hit the ground, that was the best I ever felt about that whole skydiving thing. But people are like, oh yeah, you're going to love it once the parachute opens. I'm like, no. I kept looking at that little clip going, that's the only thing between me and death is that little metal carabiner. I clipped on to another guy behind me. Yeah. I'm like looking at it going, well, that breaks. I'm not going. I'm not going to. That's
I've done it twice. So they got me to do it a second time. But you're right. It's the it could be that personality people like us have that gift of adventure, and we enjoy the thrill of the adrenaline rush you get when you create something from nothing. And starting a business is exactly that. You could be starting a business that's part of a chain with 180 stores, but your store, your project, your investment in something is still like that newborn child. Where's it going to go? What's going to happen? There's no planning. There's planning, but I mean, you've gotten this far. Now you're going to see where you can take it. And that's so important, a lesson to learn. And I feel kind of sorry. I know that we need the people that work for the state and the county that live in a cubicle for 30 years and then retire. But I would much rather take my up and down experiences. I mean, I've been sued. I've been bankrupt twice. I mean, you're not an entrepreneur until you've been sued and bankrupt, right? So, right, there's good and bad. But that's, the value of life's road, I think, is dealing with those ups and downs.
I've got this whole thing. It's called the pen theory, right? So this life is on a pen, right? This is no matter where you are on the pen, it's perfect, right? No matter where it is, right? This end of the pen or this end of the pen. The people on the very tip, the one that's touching my finger, right? Those folks are the creators. So they're the entrepreneurs, the artists, the very creative type. They're on the very, very tip of, they're the kind of the hood ornaments of life. They're out there kind of just, things are happening. It's happening, right? And the people right next to them are the people that are, that hold the pen and keep it from going straight. If without that, the pen wouldn't be able to write. And you get back here, there's hold the people that hold the people. And then back here, you got the people that, the maintenance and stability of it. Back here, you got, real fundamentals. And these might be security guards, people that make sure that things happen the way they need to happen. And every once in a while, the guy in the front says, oh my God, my life's too crazy. Because being a creator, there's lots of being an entrepreneur can be crazy. There are times when you don't know what happened and where are my keys? And oh my God, you wake up in the morning, you've got road rash and you've blown a business or a bankruptcy and you've got, oh my God. And you think to myself, I got to go back here where this guy is. And this guy up here every once in a while thinks, oh my God, my life's too boring. I got to go jump up in the front and do what the guys in the front are doing. And they're like, I got to go do that. And no, it doesn't work. They go up there and they're like, no, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
And
our
personalities, right? Everybody in the pen's perfect. Everybody's got a personality that fits them. If it's a government worker or an entrepreneur or an artist or a chef, somewhere in there, we get attracted to our ways of being, and just hopefully finding that spot where you have it. Now, every once in a while, you want to go try out another part of the pen. Great, go try it out. But ultimately, who you are shows up, and it's really tough being a entrepreneur at a security job when you're going, all right, you can't sit there all day. Your only job, I have a great friend of mine. He's an entrepreneur. He goes, I'm the only guy who is not qualified to be a security guard. He goes, I got fired for being a security guard. His only job was to sit and watch a door, and he couldn't do it. He had ants in his pants all day long, and he never could do it. And he got fired from it, and he realized then he was an entrepreneur. He couldn't sit there and do the same thing every day. It just wasn't working for him. So,
I think people like you, Anthony, the very successful, always plugging forward hood ornament. And by the way, being the front of the pen, being the hood ornament, is that what happened to the hair?
That's what happened to the hair. It just blew right off. Scott, I'm just telling you, I was doing great, but you're taking a couple of hits up there, and it moves pretty quick. And I look back and think to myself, I don't know that I could ever have done anything else. I don't know. I mean, if you look back, Scott, could you have done anything other than what you did? And we'll continue to do, right? It's not like being an entrepreneur ever stops. There's always this creative part of us. Yeah. Enjoying that.
I'm always looking for my next adventure. My wife says that's one of my problems. I'll be in a business for a couple of years, and I'm like, it's doing well, it's succeeding. I'm like, what's next? I can have staff run it. I started it, let the staff run it. I'm on to the next project. But it is something that I think is built in us, and I think that I'm not the very tip of the pen like you, and maybe that's why I have more hair, but I'm fine being, close to the end of the pen and being a creator, putting jobs into the market, putting a little money in my pocket, and taking care of my family. But and I'm going to keep bringing it back to the same mantra: let life take it where it takes you, but have fun while you're doing it. Even if you're the back of the pen, there's things you can do.
That's right.
I'm not putting it high enough to make your life interesting, exciting, and fun. And you got to make sure there's a balance. It's like they always say, you got to balance family with work. I have not always succeeded at that. That's a hard thing to do sometimes. And it's the same with balancing fun with work. That I was really good at.
I can feel it with you, Scott. I can feel it in our conversations we have. It's awesome. Scott, we're running out of time. As we look back, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best spot for them to catch up with you?
Oh, well, thanks for asking, Anthony. Hey, everybody out there, if you want to find out a little bit about me, go to www.scottscomedystuff.com. Not a real fancy name, scottscomedystuff.com, and you'll be able to pick up my podcast, which is stand-up comedy, your host and MC, where each and every week there's an interview of a professional comic or professional comedy sets to sit and enjoy. And guess what? It brings a little laughter and positive energy to your life each and every week.
Scott, you are a positive energy in my life. I am grateful, so grateful that you joined me and you took a risk and jumped on the podcast with me. I am so grateful for my time together with you, brother. And it has been a pure joy, and I look forward to us doing it again.
Sounds great, Anthony. And continue being that front of the pen and success, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.